Hey friends, Kenna here with a really exciting announcement. The Martin Center for Integration, the organization that brings you this whole life, is running a virtual DBT group for Minnesota and Wisconsin residents beginning January of 2026. DBT stands for Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, and it's got 4 main pillars: mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. In short, DBT skills are focused on growing our capacity to live in the both and, to live in the tensions and the seeming contradictions that can make our lives and relationships feel so burdensome. You guys, this is the bread and butter of what we do in our clinic and what leads to daily mental health and flourishing. The group is focused on psychoeducation and skills. It's not traditional talk therapy. It's going to be led by the incredible Carmen Franzmeyer, a licensed marriage and family therapist here in our group, for 10 Tuesday evenings beginning January 20th, 2026. So for more information, check out martincenterforintegration.com/DBT. And now on to the episode.
Hello, friends. It is the first Storytellers episode of 2026. We made it, you made it, and boy, are you in for a treat. We're back with Beth Hlabse, the program director for the Fiat program on faith and mental health at Notre Dame. Go Irish. Beth,
Great to be with you.
You are many wonderful things, but one of the things that you are is a proud Wyoming girl. And I wonder if you would have a story to share for us about life in Wyoming and kind of maybe like an encapsulating moment of that somehow.
Well, thank you, Pat. Yes, it is a joy and honor to be from Wyoming, a Wyomingite. We often talk about Wyoming as just one big small town with a really long main street, because the entire state, which it's going to take at least 7-8 hours to get from corner to corner, is under 500,000 people for total population. So we're small, and there's such a sense of community and rootedness. And I am the 7th generation to be born and raised in Wyoming, which is a total gift. I'm so grateful. In terms of a story, I thought, more than anything, I would just love to share with people a place and invite you to situate yourselves as though you're there right with me. So imagine yourself out on the great plains of Wyoming, and you can hear a little rustling of the wind in the sagebrush. What is sagebrush? Sagebrush becomes tumbleweeds, like you would see rolling across the road. But when it's rooted in the soil, it's a beautiful white, milky white and sage green color. And so as you look out, you can see fields of grain, barley, which we raise for beer, and then the sagebrush, and in the distance, just being encircled by mountains. And you find yourself at my childhood home. So I grew up on a farm, Dutcher Springs Farm, right in the upper northwest corner of Wyoming. And we have a field that undergoes rotation between beets, barley, or beans. We like the bee crops.
The 3 Bs.
The 3 Bs. And so one of the greatest joys of my childhood, I grew up just mom and dad, and then my brother and me, and the rest of the family lived in town. But a favorite pastime was Saturday mornings. I'd wake up and look out on the farm, and I didn't really have many chores. My folks took it easy on me. And so after coming down and having some breakfast, we would bundle up if the weather were cold or enjoy a more leisurely walk in the warmth. And we would go out for walks as a family. And these family walks were such a treasured time. Our driveway was a dirt drive that went uphill and then along the canal after it passed the field. And it was about a mile, so it took us at least 20 minutes to saunter it together as a family. But as we'd walk the driveway, we began it as early as I could toddle along, and then continued well through my home visits after college. We would just reflect on life and the week and the joys, and then simple, silly things. My dad has a great sense of humor. And I recognized that this time of walking was a way of reconnecting. It was a way of reconnecting as a family with each other. It was a way of reconnecting with the land, not just as something that we utilize for what we need, but as something in which we can take delight in. We experience the seasons with each of those walks and the minor changes. So in some sense, it's reconnecting with God's creation, but then also reconnecting to a sense of stillness and silence. And it was really on the farm and in and through my mom and dad's just witness to a contemplative life. I get a little teary actually thinking about it, because their life has had such an impact on me. But that really breathed in me a sense of the experience of God. It taught me to relish silence, to relish just stillness and being in beauty. And so it allowed for connection, not just with each other or the land, but also with our Lord. And I think it revealed how all of those things are intimately connected, right? When that our communion with God feeds our communion with his creation and with one another. And ultimately then a deeper sense of who we are and our own integration as people, to use a term we talked about in our previous podcasts. And so my very favorite pastime now, whenever I go home, is to walk along the canal road. I can't pass it up on a visit home. And if the Lord allows it, I'm able to get out there with mom and dad and maybe my brother, or just to be out there on my own. So thanks for the chance to share that lovely memory.
That is a profoundly beautiful image in my mind now. And that's the best commercial for Wyoming I've ever heard in my entire life. That's about as good as it gets. This is your story, not mine. But someday I can tell you about the day or the weekend that I took like a road trip retreat, so to speak. And I rented a car and literally just drove from here in the Twin Cities to the Grand Tetons. And I just either drove or slept in hotels every day for 3.5 days or so. And Wyoming is just gorgeous. And I was there in February, so I didn't get maybe the comprehensive beauty that you're describing with tumbleweeds and things like that. But it is, on one hand, I have never been anywhere more remote in my life than central Wyoming. There is just, you have to really track your gas stops really attentively, because if you run out of gas, we'll see you in June, I guess. They'll find you eventually. But it's unspeakably beautiful. And it does make sense that there's so much, it strikes me as almost like a connection to reality too, like the reality of creation, others, God, self, just with fewer maybe distractions or things to take us off course.
Oh, Pat, absolutely. Yes. And we call elements of Wyoming, areas of it, the dark side of the moon, because you can go hours in the car without seeing anything. And so I think within that you experience your own smallness. But my husband often reflects, he said, if our God, who is creator of the universe, who created all this beauty, to believe that he also created me with an infinite love and takes just as much delight in me as in even more delight in me and in you than in all this grandeur and beauty that we can be surrounded by. So
I love it. Well, dear listener, if you can make it to Wyoming, I can't recommend it enough. If you can't make it to Wyoming today, at least go for a walk and be connected to reality again. Beth Hlabse, thanks so much for sharing a little bit of your childhood with us. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Pat. Such a gift.